You've checked all the boxes. Good job, decent money, social media looks fine. So why does it feel like you're living someone else's life? That restless feeling creeping in on Sunday nights isn't about Monday's meeting. It's about the next 50 years. And somewhere deep down, you know it. You're not broken, you're not ungrateful, you're not even behind, you're awake. And that's terrifying. Here's what nobody told you about modern life. We built the perfect system for solving every problem except the one that matters most. We solved hunger, so we created meal subscription boxes. We solved transportation, so we invented ride-sharing apps. We solved communication, so we gave everyone a pocket-sized dopamine dealer that never stops buzzing. We solved boredom with infinite scroll. We solved loneliness with parasocial relationships. We solved uncertainty with life hacks and productivity porn. We solved the discomfort of having nothing to do by making sure we always have something to do. But somewhere in all that solving, we lost the thread. We got really, really good at answering how and completely forgot to ask why. Think about your last typical Tuesday. You woke up to an alarm set by someone else's schedule. You checked your phone before your feet hit the floor, because that's what we do now. You consumed someone else's thoughts through news, social media, podcasts. You went to work on projects that serve someone else's vision. You ate lunch while answering emails. You came home, ordered dinner from an app, watched shows that other people created, and fell asleep to the glow of a screen. At what point in that day did you pause and ask yourself, is this what I want to be doing with my life? Probably never, because the system is designed to keep you too busy, too distracted, too overwhelmed to ask that question. We have created, through our technological and social progress, what amounts to a perfect distraction machine. A system so efficient at occupying our attention that we rarely confront the basic existential questions that define human consciousness. The existentialists understood this predicament. Modern life creates an existential bypass, a way of living that circumvents the uncomfortable but necessary work of examining our own existence. And now you're sitting here, with everything previous generations could only dream of, feeling like you're slowly suffocating on your own success. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer saw this coming 2 centuries ago. He said life swings like a pendulum between the poles of want and boredom. When we want something, we suffer until we get it. When we get it, we're satisfied for about 5 minutes, then we're bored. And boredom, he said, is just the feeling of the emptiness of life. We've gotten really good at eliminating the want part, but we've amplified the boredom part to an art form. Think about your last real achievement, that promotion you worked nights for, that relationship that finally clicked, that apartment you saved up for. Remember that moment when you got it? That brief hit of satisfaction? Now remember what happened next. The goalpost moved, didn't it? Suddenly, this thing you'd been chasing for months or years wasn't enough anymore. There was always something else, something bigger, something better. And if there wasn't, you just felt empty. That emptiness has a name. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, called it existential vacuum, the void left behind when life lacks meaning. But here's the plot twist that changes everything. Frankl discovered that this void isn't actually the problem, it's the symptom. The real problem is that we've outsourced our sense of meaning to a system that was never designed to provide it. We've been taught to find purpose in productivity, identity in achievement, worth in wealth, value in validation, and when those things inevitably fail to fill the void because they were never meant to, we think there's something wrong with us. There isn't. Let me paint you a picture of the most successful failure you know. They wake up at 5 a.m. because some guru said that's what successful people do. They hit the gym because their trainer said consistency is key. They check their phone because their boss expects immediate responses. They post on social media because the algorithm rewards engagement. They optimize their morning routine, track their habits, measure their productivity. They listen to podcasts about peak performance while meal prepping for maximum efficiency. They network strategically, personal brand authentically, and hustle with purpose. They're crushing their quarterly goals. Their LinkedIn looks immaculate. Their friends are impressed. Their parents are proud. And they're dying inside. This is what the philosopher Martin Heidegger called living as das Man, the they self. You're not living your life, You're living the life that one is supposed to live. Most of us live inauthentically, not because we're bad people, but because authenticity requires a kind of courage that our social systems actively discourage. Every day you make thousands of micro-choices about how to be, and most are made automatically, according to scripts you've inherited from family, culture, media, and social expectations. But here's the thing about scripts. They're written for characters, not for people. Characters are two-dimensional. They have clear motivations, predictable arcs, neat resolutions. People are complicated. We contain multitudes. We contradict ourselves. We change our minds. The script says, go to college, get a good job, buy a house, find someone, settle down, climb the ladder, save for retirement, die peacefully knowing you did it right. And for a while, following the script feels safe. It feels like progress. It feels like you're adulting correctly. Until it doesn't. Until you realize that the ladder you've been climbing is leaning against the wrong wall. Until you understand that good, according to everyone else, doesn't automatically mean good for you. Here's what's particularly insidious about the modern version of the script. It's dressed up as authenticity. We're told to follow our passion, but only if it's monetizable. We're encouraged to be ourselves, but only the version that fits into someone else's business model. We're urged to live our best life, but according to metrics designed by people selling us something. The script has evolved. It no longer says conform, it says optimize. It doesn't demand obedience, it demands performance. It doesn't suppress your individuality, it monetizes it. There's the entrepreneur script. Disrupt everything. Be your own boss. Build a personal brand. There's the wellness script. Optimize your biology. Track your biometrics. Manifest your reality. There's the creative script. Follow your passion. Monetize your hobbies. Go viral. Each script promises freedom, but delivers a different kind of cage. A prettier cage, maybe. A more Instagram-worthy cage, but a cage nonetheless. And when you start to question the script, when that little voice in your head starts asking, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing with my one life? The system has an answer for that too. It tells you you're ungrateful. It tells you to practice gratitude. It tells you to be more positive, work harder, want less. It pathologizes your dissatisfaction and sells you solutions that treat the symptoms while ignoring the cause. But what if your dissatisfaction isn't a bug in your programming? What if it's a feature? What if that restless feeling, that sense that something's missing, that nagging voice asking, what's the point? What if that's not your weakness but your strength? What if it's your soul's refusal to settle for a borrowed life? Here's what Frankl discovered in the concentration camps that changed everything. The people who survived weren't necessarily the strongest, or the smartest, or the luckiest. They were the ones who had something to live for, a why that made the how bearable. He watched people with every reason to give up find reasons to keep going, and he watched people with every reason to live slowly fade away. The difference wasn't circumstances, it was meaning. But here's where it gets interesting for us. Living in comfort that those camp prisoners could never have imagined. Frankl identified something he called neugenic neurosis, suffering caused not by psychological or physical trauma, but by the absence of meaning. We find ourselves confronting the paradox of modern suffering. We have solved most of the problems that have plagued humanity for millennia: hunger, disease, physical danger. Yet we are experiencing new forms of suffering our ancestors could scarcely have imagined. When external threats dominated human experience, survival itself provided sufficient meaning. But security, once achieved, doesn't automatically generate meaning. It often does the opposite. It creates space for deeper questions to emerge. The French philosopher Albert Camus understood this paradox. He argued that the human condition is fundamentally absurd, not because life is meaningless, but because we are creatures who desperately need meaning, living in a universe that remains stubbornly silent about its purposes. In other words, you can have everything and still feel like you have nothing. You can win the game and still feel like you're losing at life. And the symptoms are everywhere. They're in the Sunday scaries that start earlier every week, now hitting you by Saturday afternoon, sometimes Friday evening. They're in the way you scroll through your phone for hours, looking for something you can't name, some piece of content that will finally scratch the itch of emptiness. They're in the relationships that feel performed rather than lived, where you're constantly curating the perfect version of yourself instead of just being yourself. They're in the achievements that taste like cardboard in your mouth, the promotion that feels hollow, the vacation that doesn't refresh you, the purchase that doesn't satisfy you. They're in the way you've started asking questions you never asked before. What am I even doing? Does any of this matter? Is this how I want to spend my life? Is this all there is? And maybe most tellingly, they're in the way you've started avoiding quiet moments. The way you reach for your phone the moment you're alone with your thoughts. The way you fill every silence with podcasts, music, noise, anything to avoid hearing that voice inside asking those uncomfortable questions. Here's what's happening. Your psyche is staging an intervention. Your soul is refusing to be satisfied with substitutes for the real thing. These aren't signs of depression, though they might look like it. They're not signs of failure, though they might feel like it. They're signs of intelligence. They're your psyche's immune system rejecting a life that doesn't fit. What we experience as personal crisis is, in reality, a confrontation with the fundamental structure of human existence itself. Anxiety becomes not a pathology, but a form of intelligence, consciousness recognizing its own terrible and beautiful freedom. The anxiety you feel when you sit quietly with yourself, that's not pathology, that's clarity. It's your consciousness recognizing that you're capable of more than you're currently doing, that you're meant for more than you're currently being. The emptiness you feel after every achievement, that's not ingratitude, that's wisdom. It's your soul refusing to be satisfied with substitutes for the real thing. The restlessness that keeps you up at night, that's not insomnia. That's your authentic self trying to get your attention, tapping you on the shoulder, whispering, "Hey, remember me? Remember what we used to dream about before we got so busy being successful?" And the question that haunts you in quiet moments, what's the point of all this? That's not cynicism. That's the most important question you could possibly ask, because until you answer it for yourself, everything else is just distraction. So here's the reframe that changes everything. You're not lost. You're liberated. You're not behind. You're awake. You're not failing at life. You're refusing to settle for a counterfeit one. Jean-Paul Sartre said we're condemned to be free. But I think he got the tone wrong. We're not condemned to be free. We're blessed to be free. Terrifyingly, responsibility-takingly, meaning-makingly free. Every moment, you're choosing. Even not choosing is a choice. Even following the script is a choice. Even living on autopilot is a choice. But most choices we make aren't really choices at all. They're reactions, reflexes, responses to pressures and expectations and fears we've never fully examined. Real choice requires something different. It requires what Frankl called the last of human freedoms. The freedom to choose your attitude in any given set of circumstances. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. This is about recognizing that between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space lies your power. The space to ask, what does this mean to me? Not what does it mean to your parents, your peers, your Instagram followers. What does it mean to you? Frankl identified 3 sources of meaning, and they're as relevant today as they were in 1946. But let's explore them more deeply, because understanding these isn't just philosophical exercise, it's practical survival kit for the modern soul. Creative values, what you give to the world. This isn't just your job, though it can be. It's any way you contribute something valuable, something uniquely yours. Creative meaning doesn't require you to be Michelangelo or Einstein. It requires you to be you, fully, unapologetically, creatively you. Maybe you create meaning by organizing spaces in a way that brings peace to others. Maybe you create meaning by asking questions that help people think differently. Maybe you create meaning by combining ideas in ways no one else has thought to combine them. The modern world tries to convince you that only certain types of creation count, that only what's monetizable, scalable, or Instagram-worthy has value. This is a lie. A teacher creating a moment of clarity for a confused student is engaged in creative meaning. A parent creating safety for their child is engaged in creative meaning. A friend creating laughter in a difficult moment is engaged in creative meaning. Experiential values, what you receive from the world. This is about love, beauty, truth, connection. But in our hyperstimulated culture, we've forgotten how to truly experience anything. We consume experiences rather than receiving them. We photograph sunsets instead of watching them. We document moments instead of living them. Experiential meaning requires presence, the increasingly rare ability to be fully where you are when you are there. Here's what Frankl understood that our culture doesn't. You don't have to travel the world or have extraordinary experiences to access experiential meaning. You can find it in a cup of coffee if you're truly present to the experience. You can find it in a conversation with a stranger if you're genuinely interested in their story. The question isn't whether meaningful experiences are available to you. They're everywhere. The question is whether you're present enough to receive them. Attitudinal values, your stance towards suffering. This is where Frankl's insights become revolutionary. He's saying that even in the worst circumstances, and he would know, you can find meaning by choosing how you respond, by becoming someone who faces hardship with dignity, who finds growth in struggle, who transforms pain into wisdom. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending suffering doesn't hurt. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control what you make it mean. Every difficulty you face is an opportunity to discover who you are when things get hard. Every loss is an opportunity to discover what really matters to you. Every failure is an opportunity to discover your resilience. When work feels meaningless, ask, how can I create something valuable here, even in small ways? How can I be fully present to what I'm doing? When relationships feel hollow, ask, how can I show up more authentically, more vulnerably, more present? What can I give to this person that only I can give? When life feels hard, ask, how can I respond to this in a way that makes me proud of who I'm becoming? What can this situation teach me? The meaning isn't out there waiting to be found. It's in here waiting to be chosen. Alright, so you've accepted that your anxiety was actually intelligence in disguise. You've realized that the emptiness you've been feeling isn't a bug. It's a feature. Your soul's refusal to settle for less than what you're capable of. Now what? Now you do the hardest and most important work of your life. You figure out what actually matters to you. Not what should matter. Not what matters to people you admire. What matters to you. The existentialists understood that authentic self-discovery requires what we might call existential archaeology. The careful excavation of our buried authentic selves from beneath layers of social conditioning and inherited expectations. The Values Excavation Protocol. First, identify your core values. Not the values you think you should have, but the ones that actually drive your decisions when no one is watching. Think about the last time you lost track of time. Not because you were scrolling or escaping, but because you were so absorbed in something meaningful that hours felt like minutes. What were you doing? This is your authentic engagement speaking. Reflect on what breaks your heart about the world. Your deepest frustrations often point toward your deepest callings. Think about the moments when you felt most proud of yourself, not when others praised you, but when you looked in the mirror and genuinely respected who you were being. What values were you expressing? What kind of person were you choosing to be? The energy audit. Pay attention to your energy over the next week. When do you feel most alive? When do you feel most drained? Energy is often a more reliable guide than thoughts because it's harder to fake. Your body knows what's authentic even when your mind is confused. Make 2 lists, energy givers and energy drains. What patterns do you see? What does this tell you about what kinds of activities, people, and environments align with your authentic self? The 5-year visualization. Think about yourself 5 years from now, living a life that feels deeply meaningful and authentic. Don't focus on external markers like job titles or possessions. Focus on how you feel, how you spend your days, what kind of person you've become. What kind of problems are you solving? What kind of relationships do you have? What values are you expressing through your choices? How are you contributing to something larger than yourself? Work backward from this vision. What would have to be true today for that future to be possible? What small step could you take this week to move in that direction? The Purpose Formation Framework. Try to capture your life purpose in 1 sentence using this template. I want to intended impact for specific audience through how, what you will do. For example, I want to inspire personal growth in overwhelmed professionals by challenging conventional productivity culture through honest storytelling. Create several versions. Notice which version makes you feel most energized when you read it. The implementation strategy. Systems over goals. Here's where most people get stuck. They identify their purpose and then nothing happens, because purpose without process is just wishful thinking. Focus on building systems that align with your purpose rather than just setting goals. Instead of the goal, I want to be a writer, build the system, I write for 30 minutes every morning. Instead of, I want to help people, build the system, I volunteer for 2 hours every Saturday. Start with small changes. Aim to align 1% more of your life with your purpose each week. Maybe this week, that means having one authentic conversation instead of engaging in small talk. Maybe it means spending 15 minutes creating something instead of consuming content. Small changes, consistently applied, compound into massive transformations. The rest is simple execution. The community element. Purpose often involves connecting with others who share similar interests. When you find your purpose, you'll discover that many others share your passions and values. Isolated purpose leads to burnout. Shared purpose leads to movements. Look for your people. Join communities of people who care about what you care about. But remember, you might need to become the community you're looking for. The evolution principle. Your life's purpose doesn't need to remain stagnant. Think of it as a living document, not a carved-in stone mission statement. Review it regularly. This isn't a sign of being flaky. It's a sign of being alive and growing. Living document, not a carved-in stone mission statement. Review it regularly. This isn't a sign of being flaky. It's a sign of being alive and growing. The daily practice. Here's what this looks like practically. You start saying no to things that drain you and yes to things that energize you. You start having conversations that matter instead of conversations that just fill space. You start creating things that reflect who you are rather than who you think you should be. You stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, what do I think? You stop measuring your worth by external metrics and start measuring it by internal ones. You give yourself permission to disappoint people who have never really seen you anyway. You give yourself permission to want what you want, not what you're supposed to want. You give yourself permission to be complicated, contradictory, and constantly evolving. Most importantly, you give yourself permission to matter, to take up space, to have opinions, to make a difference, to leave a mark that's uniquely yours on this world. Here's the thing about authentic meaning. It's not comfortable. It doesn't fit neatly into the categories society has prepared for you. It might not make sense to anyone else. It might not pay well, at least at first. It might require you to disappoint people whose approval you've been chasing. But it will make you feel alive in a way you'd forgotten was possible. Schopenhauer was right that life swings between want and boredom, but he missed a third option, meaning. When you're aligned with your authentic purpose, you transcend both wanting and boredom. You're not chasing something external to complete you, and you're not empty when you achieve it. You're full from the inside out. This doesn't mean your life becomes easy. Frankl found meaning in a concentration camp. It doesn't mean you never doubt yourself. It means you doubt yourself for better reasons. It means when someone asks you why you do what you do, you don't have to think about the answer. It means when you lay your head on your pillow at night, you're not running from yourself. It means when you look in the mirror, you see someone you respect. Your anxiety was never the problem. It was the solution trying to get your attention. That emptiness you've been feeling, it's not a void to be filled. It's a space to be honored. A space between who you've been and who you're becoming. That restlessness, that sense that something's missing, that question that keeps you up at night. What's the point of all this? It's not a sign that you're ungrateful or lost or broken. It's a sign that you're human, that you're awake, that you refuse to sleepwalk through the one life you've been given. Viktor Frankl spent years in hell and came back with one message. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. You have that freedom right now, in this moment, in the next breath you take. You can choose to keep living the script someone else wrote for you. You can choose to keep chasing goals that feel hollow, building a life that looks good from the outside but feels empty from the inside. Or you can choose something different, something scarier, something real. You can choose to honor what that anxiety is trying to tell you. You can choose to take that emptiness seriously. You can choose to treat that restlessness as a compass pointing toward your authentic life. The meaning you've been searching for isn't hiding in some achievement you haven't unlocked yet. It's not waiting for you at the end of some journey you haven't started. It's not dependent on external validation or perfect circumstances or having your whole life figured out. It's here, in this moment, in the choice you're making right now about how to respond to what you've heard. The only question is, will you choose to listen? Your one wild and precious life is asking you to stop settling for less than what you came here to do. It's asking you to stop being a passenger in your own existence and start being the author of your own story. What are you going to tell it? The meaning isn't there waiting to be found. It's here waiting to be chosen. And that choice, that's your superpower.